Hi there guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going through round 2 from the Rennsport R1 Championship, which today is from Monza. Spa was a little bit of an up and down day, as you guys have seen if you've watched that video. So we made some adjustments to kind of how I prepared for that race, and we're going to kind of go through that throughout this video. But yeah, today we're at Monza. Let's see how we get on. So then, into qualifying. We were P1 in practice with a 46.06, which was a pretty handy lap, to be honest. I think P2 was on a 0.19, so we're 0.13 quicker than anyone in practice, which doesn't really mean anything, but it is a nice little kind of confidence boost now as we start the lap. So yeah, Nicodem currently on pole with a 4.2, and this round was actually a little bit interesting. We had quite a few issues off track which kind of affected things for this event, so as we go through the first chicane, pretty tidy. We actually found out that during the BOP testing, people were driving into the grass on the entry to Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2, so they could kind of open the corner up, and it was gaining somewhere close to like a tenth a lap, which was only really done by one or two teams, so the Aston specifically was affected more than others. So there's a bit of an investigation launched, all the replays were reviewed, and then those lap times were deleted from the BOP test. So we were on the maximum amount of negative kgs possible for this race, which was obviously good, the more the merrier. And yeah, so we kind of came into this feeling pretty confident, like we were close to the times that were hit from the people who were using the grass line and we weren't using it, so we knew that we were in fairly good shape. But you know, Monza's really tricky, really hard to nail a lap around here, so easy to invalidate as I have a little bit of a lift out through Ascari, but so far, this lap has been pretty good. Josh Rogers on a 2.91, we're tracking quicker than that right now. Ideal sectors are, sort of low 0.3, anywhere in the 0.4s in sector 2 is really good, and a low 0.3 in the last is really tidy. A lot of people were struggling with sector 3 throughout the races and things like that, so if you just put a tidy lap together like this one, it's nothing groundbreaking. We go pole with the 2.24, which was a pleasant surprise. So yeah, obviously Spa, you guys would have seen my qualifying performances were pretty shaky. I went and done I wouldn't say research, but yeah, went and just sort of got my shit together, and was trying out a new routine for Monza, and so far it's working pretty good. So with that, let's get forward and get to the race. Alright then, here we are at the race start. So start speed of 90 kph, we need to hold within plus or minus 3 kph on the start, so we just stuck it straight down the middle, played it safe, and we are green. So Roger's right next to us at the moment. It's completely side by side, obviously with the rolling starts, it can be a little bit crazy. He's got a nose just ahead into T1. As we brake, he goes very, very deep, and I ran a little bit deep as I was trying to kind of avoid the chaos from behind. And we are P2 with Jakub Maszyewski directly behind us at 3.5 tenths, sort of. I'd done quite a lot of work on race trim this week. I got up to speed in quali relatively quickly, so I knew I had a bit of extra time rather than just sitting hot lapping mindlessly. I thought, you know what, move over to race trim, because at Monza you might not think it, but it is a track that you could break away if you've got good enough pace. It's easy for the guys behind to kind of battle a little bit and give you that sort of half-second gap that you need, and then just a couple good sectors and you can break the slipstream. So at the moment that's kind of what's happening. Jakub and Dom were fighting in the first chicane, and I've had a decent middle sector behind Josh. He had a very nice one, and yeah, we're 6 tenths clear. I think Rogers makes a bit of a mistake here. Looks like he braked a little bit early for Ascari, but that is us now firmly into the slipstream, and yeah, looking pretty comfortable. So then, skipping forward to lap 5, we are still tucked up nicely behind Josh, just leaving a bit of a gap to him, just so that I have slightly better visibility through the chicanes and things like that, and I can avoid the off tracks. We have a 6 incident limit for these races, so you get 5 of tracks for free, then the 6th one you will invalidate. So this is actually lap number 8, I've just realised the lap counter at the bottom left is a little bit scuffed. You can see a mistake from Josh, which is not something we see very often from him. He's ran just a little bit deep into the last corner as we begin the final lap. So that little mistake there lined us up perfectly. We go to the outside, and we're going to try and get him round the outside into the first chicane. A little bit of contact as he tries to pinch me towards the grass. I'm braking as late as possible. Pinch him nice and tight, and then through the left we've got the ideal line, and we get the job done. But it's the last lap of the race. I'm sure we all know how good that Porsche is acceleration wise as well. Josh gets the run. He actually gets to the inside of me here into Curva Grande. So down into the second chicane, going to brake as late as possible. The outside line is the better line to be on. He goes really deep on the brakes. I get the cut back, just about keep the nose there. He's pinched me really tight, and then into Lesmo 1 I get a little bit of understeer as I initially hit the brakes, and Josh has turned in to really pinch me, and there's a little bit of contact that pushes Josh wide, but he's still only 2/10 behind. Make that 3. So down towards Ascari, I'm sitting thinking, oh, how are the stewards going to view that? Will that be a penalty? Will it not? But all we can do is just push flat out, hope for the best. As we go through the first left, a little bit too much slip angle, through the right, come off the curb a little bit awkward, and then not cut enough off the left. Really clumsy, killer run, pick up 2 invalidations in the process, and then Josh gets a run on us. We block to the inside, can't see the brake marker, trying to guess, and Josh goes clean around the outside. Yeah, pretty embarrassing really. I just couldn't see the brake marker, had to guess, and we come home in P2 with Josh picking up the win. Yeah, strong race though, good start to the night, a lot better than Spa. So yeah, let's move on to the semi-finals. Alright, so here we are for the semi-final. If you're wondering why you're not seeing the Q lap, it's because we had a server restart because someone had a technical issue. Originally we qualified second with a 178, Rogers was on pole with a 175, but he went past the track limits in Lesmo 1 and the stewards sort of invalidated his lap and put him down at the back. So we're on pole, and yeah, that replay just won't load for some reason. Rennsport likes to just not load certain replay files, but thankfully we can load the race, so yeah, apologies, there's nothing I can do about that one. As yeah, we head into towards turn number 1, we've got Charlie Collins right next to us, followed by Casabon and Max Benica. So Collins goes deep, we back out again on the, I don't know why they put P1 on the outside, it's a complete disadvantage as Marco Page cuts the chicane. You just see a random Aston Martin appear. But yeah, I don't know why they put P1 on the outside at Monza. It makes absolutely no sense. That's both races now. I've been just done up the inside into the chicane. Really is a bit silly. Maybe something that needs to be looked at for next season. But you know, P2 is still not a bad spot to be in. We've got Thibaut 0.3 behind, and Max is already starting to drop off the back of us. He's had a bit of a rough chicane. He's already about 7/10 off the back of Thibaut, and obviously on the straights we're all going to close up. I'll pull Casabon away from Benica, and that will leave him with no slipstream. So it's looking early on like a 3-car breakaway, which is what you want. You know, you want to have a bit of a breakaway with as little cars as possible, like we did in the quarterfinals with Josh. You know, having just a 2-car breakaway at the front keeps things pretty simple. If you're in P2, you sit and wait till the last lap, make your move. You should be able to hang on, providing you don't do what I done and make an absolute arse at the Ascari chicane. So yeah, at this point here, it's all still looking pretty good. We're about 4.5 tenths behind Charlie, well within draft range, so there's no kind of concerns here that we're going to fall off. We've got a long straight coming up now. The Porsche is insanely good out of the corners, which is kind of where we struggle a little bit. At medium to higher speed, it's not as bad. You know, we've got good traction at the higher speeds, like good rotation and things like that. It's just at low speed, the Porsche can put its power down so effectively. It's really, really hard to contend with, and I think part of why it's so strong as well is the gear ratios, just the way it delivers the power. We've got really good torque, that's why we're shifting at such low RPM, but you can see the speed that Charlie can carry out of that chicane is just absolutely mental. So yeah, as I say, we're about 7/10 clear of Benica behind, and at this point here my sort of main goal is just not do that and yeah, just avoid invalidations, just keep the off tracks as low as possible, so that if we do end up having a bit of a brawl in the last lap, we can afford to take a couple if we get shoved off, or we cut over the inside of one of the chicanes just a little bit too much when we're battling. We want to give ourselves a little bit of headroom, so we are sort of going to relax a little bit, take a few deep breaths. Thibaut's right behind us, and we know that we're pulling away from Benica. He's got a second behind him to right Veld, so Benica's got no help. He's got no one to sort of aero push him back up to us or to swap draft with, so the three of us really should be in pretty good shape. So skipping forward into lap number 8, things have been pretty chilled. At this point here, Thibaut was going for a move on me in the previous lap, but I stayed behind Charlie and sort of had the slipstream. And on this lap here, Thibaut was close again, so I thought he's probably going to go for the move. I've got to go for it, or I'm going to fall back to P3. And once you drop to P3, that is really, really difficult to get anything done. Really hard to try and get the move, and P2's got to run as well. He can't stay close enough to pass P1. So in that situation there, although it's not ideal having to pass before the last lap, it was kind of send or be sent. So I had to go for it. You know, worst case scenario now, we finish P2. You know, it's unlikely that we're going to drop to P3. So, but also I know that Vitality are in need of points. Round 1 didn't go well for them, so I know that Thibaut's going to be aggressive, and he was really, really strong at following. Like, he was able to sit super, super close to me, and not really pick up any invalidations or make any mistakes. So yeah, I'm hoping that with a good couple sectors here, 4-2 middle's not too bad, a good couple sectors here, that we can increase the gap to Charlie and leave him exposed to Thibaut. So at this point here, yeah, it's looking pretty good. Thibaut's 0.18 behind Charlie, so he's basically right under his rear wing. It means that Thibaut is going to have a good shot down the front straight. However, of course, we have got to look out behind as well. We have got to try and be careful. But I had a really good last corner, got the gap to 0.42, and at this point, I'm not going to get overtaken. As we come to start the final lap now, Thibaut's going to make a move on Collins up the inside, and there's still 0.25 behind me, so things are looking pretty handy. As I come through the first chicane, I run a little bit deep just because I was kind of watching the mirror at the same time to make sure Thibaut didn't miss the braking zone. And at this point they are side by side out of the first chicane. Gap is up to half a second, and now we can just take a deep breath, relax. They're still going to go side by side through the second chicane, so I know I've got another few tenths coming my way. I can just, yeah, focus on hitting my marks. No one's going to get to me, and this should be our first win of the season. Yep, there you can see Thibaut up into P2, gaps out over a second now. They lost about half a second in that chicane. And yeah, it's such a great feeling when you make that move and you're able to sort of increase the gap a little bit, and everything sort of plays out exactly how you expected it to. And then on the last lap you can literally just soak it in, enjoy it, and sort of take a deep breath and just realise what you've done, what you've achieved. It's really good to pick up a win, first win of the season, which was a big confidence boost for me. Especially after Spa, you know, this was a key point here that we were pole in the first race, pole in the second race, so you know, qualifying form is right there, and to pick up the win as well, plus a P2 and the knockouts is yeah, these first two races are going really well, so we've got high hopes for the final. It's also worth mentioning that Dara won both his knockout and his semi-final, so that's 3 wins from 4 and a P2 from just the two of us as well. Misha managed to make a semi-final as well in only second race, and Vojta got a little bit screwed over by a game bug basically what was happening was during the server restarts, cars were getting placed in the wrong grid slots, and in Voita's race they had a server restart, and Kevin Siggy sort of didn't really take the start. Like the start speed was 90 and Kevin was just sort of sitting at 70, so the massive gap formed up and he was meant to be starting like 4th or 3rd. He ended up starting like behind the guys in like 10th place because the right hand lane obviously just kept going as normal, and Kevin basically stopped. So that's kind of what knocked Voita out really, just a bit of bad luck. But yeah, between Dara and I it's 3 wins from 4 as we head to the final. So then, into the final we go. We are the last car to go. We've had a 335 second wait, which is always the worst. You've got to sit and wait for ages, sort of cooling down, watching everyone else do the lap times. But we are on to our lap. If you look at the top left, Dara has put in a 0.84 in the final, which is a huge lap. Yeah, so he's basically guaranteed pole. He's on pole with 2/10 at the moment. As we head in towards the first chicane, we know that if we just put a good lap together based on the knockouts and the semi-finals, it will be up near the front. So nice and aggressive over the first chicane, maybe cut just a little bit too much, the car straightened out just a little bit, but it's not the end of the world. It was a tidy exit, so we should be able to carry decent speed on the way out. Don Blair's gone P2 with a 160, it's a really solid lap from him. That'll be tough to beat. But anyway, into the second chicane, spot the brake marker, down to second, take that first curb, short shift to third, carry throttle over it. That was pretty nice. It was a 335 sector 1, so it's a really good sector 1 despite taking a little bit too much off the first curb. Lesmo 1, a little bit safe on the exit, could have carried a bit more speed there, it's probably half a tenth gone. Into Lesmo 2, a little bit safe again, probably another 400 or 500 gone, so we've lost about a tenth in between the two Lesmos. But the race control were quite strict. They had sort of custom track limits there. It wasn't just the game polices them. They didn't want to see people sort of clipping the gravel, so we really had to watch for that all day. As it's a 5-4 middle, not ideal. So we know we've got a clutch up here in the last sector. And Ascari went pretty well, pretty tidy. So we're going to be close with Collins for P3 on the grid. I think Dom's a little bit too far away. Going to need a monstrous last sector to get anywhere near him. Into Parabolica, trailing off nice and early, picking up the throttle, good traction, good rotation, and overall a decent lap. Middle sector kind of let me down a little bit, but outside of that it was a really solid lap. And it is a 2:17, so we're P3. That's a 1 in 3 on the grid for Dara and I, looking really good for the final. So, into the race we go. It's looking good. We've got Dara on pole, me in third. As I said, between Dara and I, we'd won 3 races out of 4, and the other one was a P2, so we've already banked really good points at this stage. So we know that Group A is looking pretty solid heading into the last round at Hockenheim in a week's time. We can have a little bit of fun with this, but we do still need to bring home big points. The win isn't paramount, but with 2 of us up at the front, you know, if we don't win this, then you know, I think it's fair to say we haven't maximised the potential. So just getting some heat into the brakes so that at T1 we don't go sliding straight through. As the pace car peels off, Dara's now in control of the field. We're going to get as close as we can realistically to him, but also give ourselves a little bit of a gap to drive into. So green flag is out, and we're going to tuck right up underneath Dara. Lifting off as bump drafting isn't allowed. We're not allowed to make contact with the car in front, but we are allowed to aero push as such. And onto the brakes, getting a little bit of contact from Dennis on the right hand side as we get shoved off and just decide, you know what, we're not making that corner. Collins was up the inside of Dennis, it was 3 wide into that first chicane, and we have cut the chicane and taken the off track. Now there's no slowdown in this game like iRacing, so at this point I've just got to relinquish the positions that I gained. So I'm going to drop in behind Dom, and then I need to drop in behind Dennis, but of course he's side by side with Charlie, so that then drops us into P5. But at this point here, we're in contact with race control, saying, you know, are you happy with what we've done? I get the message back to say, yep, race control's happy, you're free to race now, no penalty coming. So that's good. We've sort of done our due diligence. Easier for me to say. As yeah, Dennis went side by side with Dom into the second chicane. I don't know if he meant to or not, but Dara is 9.5 tenths clear, which is outside of draft range. So a great start for him. the win is looking, yeah, really good at this point. Dara's race pace was, as you can probably expect, absolutely rapid. So, you know, I knew that that part of the job was done now. Dara's broke draft on lap 1, with thanks to Dennis. So, yeah, Dennis kind of done the work for us. It was, I was planning on trying to kind of slow guys down so Dara could get the win, and I would try and look after myself after that, but didn't have to. So my job now is just to try and get into second place, which is going to be really tricky though. Obviously being 4th in line, having Jeffrey right behind me, the whole pack is basically on top of each other here at this point, so we've got to be really, really careful. But we've had a good opening lap. The last sector was pretty good. We were pretty close to the guys in front. We got a pretty big run, and I know if I sit here, Jeffrey's going to get me. So I got the inside 3 wide, late on the brakes. Dennis tries to go even later, and hits the back of Dom Blair. We tried to avoid. We skim him just a little bit, and then file in behind Charlie's. Dennis has to cut the chicane. Yeah, the win's definitely secured now. Dara is what, 2 seconds clear as Dennis rejoins. We've got the overspeed. So we decided to take the run. Obviously we haven't got any draft from Charlie, which isn't ideal. We've got to take a long way around. But Dennis then backed off and let us in. So yeah, now we're P3 in the draft behind Collins. Got a really rough landing off that chicane though. And at this point here I'm thinking, right, well Dennis is pretty close behind. I don't want him to try and send me back, so I need to push hard, try and stay in draft to Charlie like we did in the semi-finals. But at this point the heart's kind of going a little bit. We've had basically 2 crashes in the first 2 laps, so yeah, just trying to take a few deep breaths, calm ourselves back down, focus on the job at hand. A 1-2 is still on. It is still on, as we run a little bit deep in Ascari though, and yeah, just leaves us offline for the right. Big mistake, and that's, yeah, really put us on the back foot. But I did actually look at the relative and saw that Dennis had a 1 second gap to Bennett behind in P5, so I'm thinking, okay, this is ideal. Like, Dennis can sort of push me back up to Charlie, and then we'll have a 3-car scrap in P2, which I'd like to think I could get P2 out of that. But yeah, that sort of didn't happen. We knew that Dennis had a 5-second penalty coming for the contact with Dom, so I thought, right, okay, well he's just going to want to bump draft me and sort of, or aero push me and maximise the gap, but he went for the move, and obviously in an interest to not lose any more time, I let him go and thought, okay, I'll let Dennis go. I know the BMW is quick around here, so I can settle in behind. I can try and push Dennis up to the back of Charlie, and you know, I'll try and deal with Charlie at the end of the race. Obviously Dennis won't be in the equation, so yeah, we can just focus on what's important, which is trying to get that 1-2 and really lock ourselves into Group A and top off what's going to be a great result for the team. So yeah, let's get forward and see how that transpires. So lap 4, and yeah, Dennis has had a bit of a rough one. He's now 2nd behind Charlie. So at this point I'm thinking, right, Dennis hasn't got the pace, I've got to go for it myself. Got to try and make it happen. So I get the run, make the move on Dennis, and try to close that gap back in. But the pace at the front is in the 9s, which is very strong for the midpoint of the race. But obviously I had the overspeed on Dennis, so that would gain us a couple tenths straight away. And we just got to try and focus on hitting clean laps, hitting clean sectors, dragging ourselves back into that. Hopefully a little push from Dennis will allow us, yeah, to get up there. But at this point here I've had 3 invalidations and we're only at the halfway mark, so we're on track to get a 5-second penalty at the moment. So we've got to try and push the limits and close the gap, but also not get any off tracks. So at the moment though, a podium's guaranteed at this point. Bennett's 1 second behind Dennis. Obviously Dennis has that 5-second penalty, so it's all just eyes forward on Charlie. It's not been a great middle sector, it's only a 4.9, which yeah, isn't good enough, but you know, we just need to keep pushing on, avoid the off tracks, and try and close that gap. So on to the end of lap 6, start of lap 7, and at this point Dennis
is doing 46.4 in front of us, so he's 3 or 4 tenths a lap off the front guys, and Benica is now up to P5 behind. At this point I'm like, right, he's got a 5-second penalty, I'm just going to get in front of him and hope that he just sits behind. And at this point here we clear him, start to move over, and then Dennis absolutely bombs it on the outside on the brakes. I have to move back to the right to avoid him so I don't shove him into the grass. And yeah, a little bit of contact. There was almost 3 bits of contact in the one braking zone, and at this point I'm just a little bit miffed. I'm like, you've got a 5-second penalty, you're going to finish last anyway. You know what is the reason for this? Is now he sends one back up the inside in the second chicane, losing us even more time. And yeah, I realised that Benica was the one in P5. So basically Dennis at this point has 10 seconds worth of penalties. I believe he got a 5-second penalty for the contact with Dom, and then a further 5 seconds for track limits. And he's just gonna, just use me as a target practice, I guess, to bring me back to Max to try and get him on the podium. So yeah, it's frustrating, but it's within the rules. Nothing I can do now. I've just got to try and stay cool and manage that as best I can as I pick up a 4th in validation now. So we've only got 2 left for the remaining 2 laps, and we know at this point that we're going to be raced hard by Dennis, who is just going really, really slowly. Benik is only 8 tenths behind now. He's on the verge of slipstream. So it's all kind of piling up now. We've got we're getting backed up into the opposition, and we're only 2 invalidations away from a 5-second penalty, which would be a huge amount of points thrown away. So lap number 8, 2 laps to go. We're going to try it again, because I know if I just sit here that Benica will be on me. Dennis swerves to the right before the braking zone, and as I go through the right-hander, he lifts off the brake, and basically to guarantee that I make contact with him, because I've gone deep to clear him, and he lifted off the brake and turned in, and then hits me again through the left-hander, which is 2 laps in a row now. He's made contact with me through the left-hander of the chicane, and now all of a sudden Benik is 3 tenths behind. At this point Dennis bombs it down the inside once again, and there's off track number 5. For some reason on the straight he just right-hand down me and crashed into me, which I didn't understand. At this point it's just getting a little bit childish. There's team games, and then there's just intentionally crashing into people, which is kind of what he's done there. So I think behind Casabon went side by side with Benica through Lesmo 2, so that gave us a bit of a gap to Max behind. So yeah, Max is 2.5 tenths behind now. He's closed the 2-second gap thanks to all this, and we have no off tracks left. If we invalidate once, it is a 5-second penalty and we'll be P11, which we don't want. So on this final lap I look at the gap to Max at 3.5 tenths. I actually back off a little bit on the entry to give myself a gap to Dennis so that I can drive into it and have slipstream for the entire straight, because I know that if I've got slipstream the whole way, Max won't be able to pass me. So we're 3.5 tenths behind Dennis. It's not close enough to clear them before the braking zone, so I know that I can drive into this gap and Dennis will actually pull me away from Max, which he has. It's 3.32 to Max. He's too far away to make anything happen, so I can just sit behind Dennis, and all I need to do is just finish this lap without an off track, and Benica won't be able to get anywhere near me. So a bit confused really. Dennis spent the whole race trying to back me up into Max, and then in the last lap ended up helping me by giving me slipstream the entire way and giving me a gap to drive into. He increased the pace as soon as Max got there, and it gave me the perfect opportunity to just hook a couple of corners together, and he would just tow me along on the straights, and Max would be able to get me. So at this point it's 0.22 to Benica, but we've got a 4.5 tenth gap in front to Dennis, which I know I can just drive into, as Max makes a bit of a mistake in Lesmo 2 and kind of loses his momentum. So at this point here I know I just need to do a good Ascari, no off tracks, just catch the curbs nice and smooth, get the run off the corner, and that will be a podium locked up. So through Ascari, nice over that last left. Max ran a bit deep on the entry, and then you can see it's just bleeding time on the exit as Dennis very nicely pulls us along. So yeah, don't know what he's doing here, he's trying to break the draft or something, I'm not really sure. But for us, we're not first. We've got a podium. Darrow wins the final by 2.5 seconds over Charlie Collins, and we will cross the line to finish P3 once all is said and done. What a day for the team. Top scoring team. Basically secured Group A through this result. We're quite comfortably P2 at the moment with Red Line not too far behind, but a substantial gap to them anyway. Which, yeah, is a really great day. So then, guys, that was round 2 of the Rennsport All-Round Championship. Action-packed as always for Monza, as you'd expect. Yeah, what a day for the team. We were really pumped after that result. I was really proud of myself for the changes that I made after Spa. I was able to identify what went wrong, why I wasn't putting the laps together when it mattered, and yeah, throughout the whole event, I was rock solid. Dada was rock solid. We were able to bring home a huge amount of points. You know, for Misha and Vojta, obviously it wasn't a great day for them, but they're new to the series. It was only their second round. We knew this was going to be a bit of a learning curve for them, so there's no kind of pressure from our side. As long as Dara and I are performing well, you know, we know that we can be top 3, and it's just a matter of time before it clicks for those two. And once it clicks for them, we're going to be a legitimate title shot, which is, you know, really exciting. That's why we came to Virtus in the first place, to be in the hunt for the championship and be in that conversation, which, you know, Dara and I weren't really in that conversation in our previous teams, just for one reason or another. But now, you know, with primarily just the two of us scoring the majority of the points, we're still second in the team's champ. So we know for a fact that once it clicks for Misha and Vojta, we're going to be right there with Redline, with Coanda, even with Maus as well. You know, it's going to be a really good scrap for the championship when we head to Riyadh later this year. But yeah, off to Hockenheim next. Thank you guys very much for watching. We will see you from Hockenheim, and yeah, that'll be a tough one. Not much overtaking goes on there typically, so we'll see how that goes. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care.